Rolex. The name itself sounds like money. It is the ultimate symbol of capitalism, success, and exclusivity. When you wear a Rolex, you are telling the world that you have made it. It is a company that generates an estimated $10 to $13 billion in revenue every single year. A company so powerful that even if you have $50,000 in cash, they might simply refuse to sell you a watch. They create artificial scarcity to keep you begging. But what if I told you that everything you think you know about Rolex is a lie? What if I told you that this ruthless capitalist juggernaut is actually a charity? You heard that right. Rolex is technically a non-profit organization. They don't have shareholders. They don't pay corporate taxes in the same way Apple or Tesla does. And legally, they are owned by a private foundation designed to, believe it or not, do good. So, here is the paradox. If Rolex is a charity, why do their watches cost more than a car? Where do the billions of dollars in profit actually go? Is it really funding orphans, or is it the greatest tax loophole in history? Today, we are opening the vault. From the tragic story of an orphan founder to the secret laws of Switzerland that protect an empire. Welcome to the Wealth Memoir. Let's uncover the secret life of Rolex. To understand the confusing legal structure of Rolex today, we cannot look at lawyers or bankers. We have to look at a tragedy that happened over 130 years ago. The story begins in Bavaria, Germany, in 1881. A young boy named Hans Wilsdorf was born into a relatively prosperous family, but destiny had a cruel plan for him. By the time Hans turned 12, his world collapsed. Both of his parents died shortly after one another, leaving him an orphan. Imagine a 12-year-old boy, stripped of parental guidance, forced to navigate a cold, industrializing world alone. This trauma defined him. Psychologists often say that children who lose everything early on develop an intense need for control and stability. For Hans, that stability would come in the form of time. Young Hans was sent to boarding school, where he developed a meticulous nature. He eventually moved to Switzerland and found a job at a watch exporting firm. But you have to understand the era. It was the early 1900s. Men did not wear wristwatches. Back then, wristwatches were called wristlets. They were feminine jewelry, fragile and utterly inaccurate. Real men carried pocket watches. But Hans Wilsdorf had a vision that everyone else laughed at. He believed that the future was on the wrist. He bet his entire inheritance, every penny left by his deceased parents, on this risky idea. In 1905, at just 24 years old, he moved to London and founded a company called Wilsdorf and Davis. His goal wasn't just to make a watch, it was to make a watch so precise, so durable, that it would force the world to take wristwatches seriously. He was obsessed with perfection. He imported tiny, high-precision movements from Switzerland and cased them in silver and gold. But he faced a marketing problem. Wilsdorf and Davis sounded like a law firm, not a luxury brand. He needed a name that was short, looked good on a watch dial, and could be pronounced easily in any language. Legend has it, a genie whispered the word into his ear while he was riding a horse-drawn omnibus in London: Rolex. The gamble paid off. World War I broke out, And suddenly, soldiers in the trenches found pocket watches impractical. They needed time on their wrists. Rolex was ready. By the 1920s, Hans Wilsdorf was a wealthy man. He had conquered poverty, he had conquered the market, and he had built an empire. But history has a funny way of repeating itself. Hans had built the ultimate legacy, but he had no one to leave it to. Though he married a wonderful woman named Florence, they never had children. The orphan founder was once again alone. And then in 1944, tragedy struck for the second time. His beloved wife passed away. He was 63 years old. He had no children, no heirs, and a company worth millions. He looked around and realized that if he died, his life's work, Rolex, would be sold off, chopped up by bankers, or ruined by greedy shareholders. So he did something radical, something that would confuse economists for the next century. He gave it all away.
The year was 1945. Europe was slowly waking up from the nightmare of World War II. But inside a private office in Geneva, Hans Wilsdorf was fighting a different kind of battle. A battle for the immortality of his life's work. Hans was 63 years old. He had no children. His wife was gone. He looked at the empire he had built and realized a terrifying truth. Without an heir, Rolex was vulnerable. Once he died, the vultures would circle. Bankers, investors, and distant relatives would tear the company apart, selling it piece by piece for quick cash. He refused to let that happen. So he made a decision that would confuse economists and lawyers for the next 80 years. With a single signature, he transferred 100% of his ownership shares to a newly formed entity, the Hans Wilsdorf Foundation. To understand why this matters, we have to look at the unique nature of Swiss law. This wasn't just a donation, it was a strategic masterstroke. Under Swiss civil code, a foundation, or Stiftung, is not just a company, it is a legal fortress. Wilsdorf wrote a strict set of bylaws for this foundation, rules that are effectively carved in granite. The most critical rule: Rolex can never be sold. Neither the company nor its shares can ever be traded on a public stock market. It cannot be merged. It cannot be bought. It is locked in a perpetual state of independence. Think about the nightmare modern CEOs face. The CEO of a public company lives in a prison called quarterly capitalism. Every 3 months, they have to report their earnings to Wall Street. If profits drop even slightly, investors panic, stock prices crash, the board of directors screams for cost cutting. This forces companies to make terrible, short-sighted decisions. They lower the quality of their materials to save pennies. They shift production to cheaper countries. They flood the market with trendy product just to hit a revenue target. They are slaves to the graph. Rolex does not have this problem. Because the foundation owns the company, there are no shareholders to demand a dividend check. There is no stock price to worry about. They have the ultimate luxury that money can't buy, the luxury of the long game. If Rolex wants to spend 10 years developing a new waterproof seal, they can. If they want to stop selling a popular model like the Daytona just to preserve its exclusivity, they can. No one can fire them. No one can sue them for losing potential profit. This unique structure is exactly what saved them during the darkest period in watchmaking history, the quartz crisis. In the 1970s, the Swiss watch industry faced an extinction-level event. Japan introduced quartz technology, battery-powered watches that were 10 times more accurate than Swiss mechanical watches and cost a fraction of the price. It was a massacre. Over 60,000 Swiss watchmakers lost their jobs.
Famous brands that had existed for centuries went bankrupt or sold themselves for scraps. Any public company would have pivoted immediately. Shareholders would have screamed, "Stop making these obsolete mechanical toys, switch to digital, save the profit margins." But Rolex stood its ground. Since they didn't need to show a profit to Wall Street, they could afford to lose money in the short term to protect their identity. They refused to go cheap. They refused to go digital. Instead, they did something genius. They rebranded the mechanical watch. They told the world that a quartz watch is a tool, but a Rolex is a jewel. It is a status symbol. While others panicked, Rolex solidified its legend. This survival was only possible because the foundation shielded them from market pressure. So who actually runs this empire today? It is controlled by a board of trustees. These are usually not family members, but custodians, prominent lawyers, former industry leaders, and trusted guardians appointed to protect Wilsdorf's will. Their job isn't to maximize profit for themselves, because here's the kicker: they cannot legally profit from the company's success. They draw a fixed salary. They don't get stock options. Their sole job is to ensure Rolex exists for the next 100 years. They are the guardians of the Grail. But this guardian role comes with a heavy cloak of secrecy. Under Swiss law, as a private charitable trust, the Hans Wilsdorf Foundation acts like a black box. Unlike public companies like Apple or Tesla, they are not required to publish financial reports. We don't know the CEO's salary. We don't know their marketing budget, though it is everywhere, from Formula One to Wimbledon. We don't even know exactly how many watches they make, though experts guess it's around 1 million a year. They operate in the shadows, answering to no one but the ghost of Hans Wilsdorf. Here is where the math gets terrifying. Current estimates suggest Rolex generates over $13 billion in revenue annually. Their profit margins are significantly higher than their competitors because they control every single part of their supply chain. Since there are no shareholders to pay dividends to, and the trustees are paid a fixed salary, a massive surplus of cash is generated every single year, billions of dollars piling up year after year. In a normal company, this excess money would buy super yachts for the owners. In a public company, it would be distributed to investors. But in a non-profit foundation, the money has to go somewhere. Legally, a portion is reinvested in the company, building better factories, buying gold foundries, and acquiring real estate. But the rest, the billions of dollars in leftover profit, it is legally mandated to be spent on good causes. But are they really giving away billions, or is charity just a convenient label to hide the world's largest tax-free bank account? They say they support the arts, education, and the environment, but without public financial records, how can we be sure? Is it possible that the non-profit label is the smartest business strategy ever invented? To find the answer, we have to follow the money trail, from the secret vaults of Geneva to the surprising places where Rolex actually spends its fortune.
We have established that Rolex sits on a pile of cash that would make small countries jealous. Since they cannot give this money to shareholders and they cannot simply burn it, they have to spend it. But where? If you look closely at the city of Geneva, you will realize that Rolex isn't just a watch company. It is a massive, capital-absorbing octopus, and its first tentacle is wrapped around something solid, expensive, and permanent: real estate. Rolex is quietly one of the largest landlords in Switzerland. Because the foundation cannot distribute profit, they store their wealth in brick and mortar. Over the last few decades, Rolex has been buying up Geneva, building by building.
They own industrial parks, residential complexes, and high-tech laboratories. This isn't just about needing office space. This is a banking strategy. Real estate is safe. It appreciates in value. It is the perfect place to park billions of dollars of tax-free surplus without raising eyebrows. Look at their recent move in New York. Rolex is currently constructing a new headquarters on Fifth Avenue. It's not just an office, it's a 25-story architectural marvel. Critics might ask, does a charity need a glass tower on the most expensive street in the world? Rolex would answer, we are investing for the future. By pouring hundreds of millions into construction, they are legally reinvesting in the company, which keeps their non-profit status secure while growing their asset sheet. But buildings are boring compared to where the real money goes. Rolex spends an absolute fortune on something called vertical integration. Most watch brands, even luxury ones like Patek Philippe or Omega, buy certain parts from external suppliers. Maybe they buy the dials from one guy, the gold from another, and the bracelets from a third. Rolex trusts no one. They want total control. So they spent decades and billions of dollars buying their entire supply chain. They bought the company that made their bracelets, Gay Frères. They bought the company that made their dials. They even built their own private gold foundry inside their factory. Think about that. They don't buy gold bars from a bank like everyone else. They create their own exclusive alloys like Everose Gold in-house. They employ an army of geologists, chemists, and gemologists. This is incredibly inefficient and expensive. A normal CEO would say, outsource this, it's cheaper. But the foundation doesn't care about cheaper. They care about better. This massive operational cost is a convenient way to burn through excess cash while ensuring no one can ever copy their quality. Then there is the marketing machine. If you turn on a TV on a Sunday, you will see Rolex. Formula One, Rolex is the global partner. Wimbledon, Rolex is the official timekeeper. The Oscars, the PGA Tour, the 24 Hours of Le Mans, Rolex, Rolex, Rolex. They don't just buy ad slots, they buy prestige. They sponsor the most elite events in the world. Estimates suggest Rolex spends hundreds of millions annually on these sponsorships. Why? Because they are selling a dream. They are associating the brand not with charity, but with victory. This massive marketing budget is another massive expense column that helps balance their books against their massive revenue. So they spend on buildings, they spend on gold foundries, and they spend on Roger Federer. But what about the charity part? Remember, they are legally a non-profit. They must do good. And to be fair, they do. Enter the Rolex Awards for Enterprise and the Mentor and Protégé Arts Initiative. For decades, Rolex has quietly funded individuals who are trying to save the world. They usually don't donate to big, famous charities like the Red Cross. Instead, they find individuals, scientists exploring the deep ocean, environmentalists saving the Amazon, or young artists learning from masters. They give these people grants. They fund expeditions that no government wants to pay for. For example, when James Cameron went to the bottom of the Mariana Trench, Rolex was there, both on his wrist and on the checkbook. Locally, in Geneva, the foundation is a hero. They bail out local social institutions. They fund the Geneva School of Art and Design. They pay for student scholarships. There are rumors that if a local bakery or a historic building in Geneva is about to go bankrupt, the foundation steps in, writes a check, and saves it, anonymously. They act like a benevolent Batman for the city of Geneva, watching from the shadows, fixing problems with money, and asking for no credit. But here is the cynical question. Does funding a few ocean expeditions and an art school cost $13 billion a year? Absolutely not. Even if they spend $500 million on charity, which is a generous estimate, and another $1 billion on marketing and production, there are still billions unaccounted for. The good deeds we see are likely just the tip of the iceberg. Because they are secretive, we don't know if they are hoarding the rest or if they are donating to causes we never hear about. Critics argue that the charity label is just a mask, a way to avoid taxes while building a monopolistic empire. Supporters argue that it's the purest form of capitalism, a company that makes the best product possible, treats its employees like royalty. Rolex employees are the highest paid in the industry, and supports science without needing a round of applause. Regardless of where the money goes, one thing is certain. The foundation structure allows Rolex to operate in a way that defies modern business logic. They don't chase money, money chases them. And because they don't have to share that money with shareholders, they have become something more than a company. They are a fortress, an impenetrable vault of wealth, influence, and time. But this fortress has one final secret, a reason why even if you had all the money in the world, you still couldn't buy them.
In the world of luxury, big fish eat little fish. LVMH bought Tiffany & Co. for $16 billion. They bought Bulgari. They bought Christian Dior. Conglomerates act like predators, constantly hunting for the next trophy to add to their collection. And the ultimate trophy, the crown jewel they all dream of, is Rolex. Analysts estimate that if Rolex were ever put up for sale, it could fetch over $50 billion overnight. It would be the sale of the century. But here is the reality. Even if LVMH offered $100 billion tomorrow, the answer wouldn't just be no. It would be legally impossible. Remember the bylaws Hans Wilsdorf wrote in 1945? They act like a poison pill. The trustees of the foundation do not have the legal authority to sell the company. Even if they wanted to, they can't. To sell Rolex would be to break the very existence of the foundation itself. This is the final victory of the orphan founder. Hans Wilsdorf knew he couldn't live forever, so he built a machine that could. He removed human greed from the equation. He ensured that no future CEO could ruin his legacy for a quick profit. Rolex is an anomaly. It is a ruthless capitalist beast that dominates the market, yet it is owned by a silent charity that gives back to the world. It is a contradiction, a paradox. So, is Rolex a charity, or is it a business? Perhaps it is neither. Perhaps it is simply a monument to the idea that the only thing more valuable than money is time. And for Rolex, time is infinite. Thank you for watching this edition of Wealth Memoir. If you enjoyed uncovering the secrets of the ultra-wealthy, make sure to like and subscribe. We have opened the vault, but there are many more stories hidden inside. Until next time.